Hello. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our final Do Less book club session, the fourth in the series. I can't see your comments again like last week, so I'm just going to go ahead and pull up this live in another window so I can see your comments while I'm talking here. Let me just do that, and then I'll pull this over here as you come on. So as you're coming on, let me know how you're doing so far, and any questions you have about anything that's come up for you during the book club. Okay. Great. So I just want to say hi to Smadar. You've been here every time. I love it. Hi to Jill. Hi to Jolene. Hi to Maggie. Awesome. All right. So just let me know, how are you doing with the book, with all of the material? Do you have questions? Have you had any ahas? Hi, Jen in Boston. I would just love to know. Hi, Joe. Great to see you here. Sampada in India. Hello, welcome. Happy to have you. All right. Welcome. All right. So Jill says, I loved going deeper into egg wisdom last week. I've been really embracing it even more than before. I love it. Katrine, hello. Welcome. All right. Hello, Joanna. Great to have you here. Let's see. Hello, Mary Jen. Anne Marie says, feeling so peaceful as I've been thinking about egg wisdom. I send out proposals and I just know that I'll be attracting the right thing. That's so beautiful, Anne. That's just like the most perfect application of egg wisdom, to be sending out your proposal and know that you'll attract the right thing back. That's great. Natalie, hello in Canada. Okay. Hi, Julia in Sonoma. So today we are going to bring it home. And while we, of course, wouldn't ever get to discuss every single aspect of the book, some of you, will have been just getting started with your reading. Some of you will have already read the book. Regardless of where you are, you're in the perfect place. And Julia says that she loved getting deeper on egg wisdom too, and didn't absorb it in the same way from the book, and that the discussion really helped. So I'm so glad about that. Joe said that the idea that has been a real aha for her is the idea that I'm still myself when I'm feeling low energy and in need of rest. Oh, I love that. I'm so glad that that was powerful for you, Joe. And Lynn is loving getting in sync with her cycle and not pushing things when it's time to rest. That's so beautiful. Okay, so I'm just going to make a quick note to myself. Okay, great. Okay, so Jen loved Einstein versus Newtonian time. So Jen, we're going to talk more about that today, so I'm really excited. Okay, great. Katie, I've loved spending time with you too. This is super awesome. It's been such a joy and such a bright spot in the month of April. Okay, so today we are diving into some of the experiments, some of the Do Less experiments. And we're going to talk about experiment number 6, which is asking for help. Experiment number 8, which is managing your energy. Experiment number 10, which is becoming a time bender, and experiment number 14, which is let it be enough. So let's just start with asking for help. Mike and I actually recorded a podcast of the Kate and Mike Show, an episode this morning, where we talked about the opportunity to use Mother's Day coming up this Sunday in the United States. If you live in the United States, if you don't, the conversation will still totally apply, because we talked about Mother's Day as a microcosm of an opportunity to ask for what we want, and really be a stand for our desires. And one of the things that occurred to me as we were in that conversation is the degree to which, as women, we have been raised to believe that being a good woman means being selfless. And if any of you read Glennon Doyle's book, Untamed, you would have read about her whole analysis of that. And she was actually on the podcast this week. She's our podcast guest this week. So if you haven't listened to that episode yet, it's about so many things, but one of them is what to do when you've lost yourself. And she talks about, how we have a culture of holding up as the pinnacle to be a selfless woman, and how problematic that is, because it sort of virtually guarantees that we lose ourselves. And so we were talking about that this morning in regards to asking for what we need, asking for what we want. And it did occur to me, and this has occurred to me before, but it was sort of a deeper layer. This work keeps growing and changing and developing in us, that the reason it is so hard for so many of us to ask for what we want or ask for what we need is because the memo we got culturally was, you're only a good woman, you're only a good mother if you're a mother, if you are selfless, meaning you have lost yourself, meaning you have no self, meaning you aren't even a person. And somebody who believes that the ultimate goal is selflessness is never going to give themselves permission to ask for help. And so we really need to look at that. And I don't know if this is resonating with you, but let me know in the comments if it is. Medium, the podcast episode with Glennon is episode 182 of the Kate and Mike Show. And the podcast episode about Mother's Day and asking for what you want is going to be episode 183, which is next week. So I just want to know from you, does that resonate when I talk about selflessness, or the tension between having desires and having things you want, and certainly having needs, and feeling like you can't ask for them to be met because that means you won't be a good woman anymore, or you won't be a good mother anymore if you are a mother? Just let me know in the comments. I know we have a little bit of a delay, so I'm just going to hold for a minute and allow you the time to answer. All right, so I'm going to give you a second here. So Natalie is saying, it does resonate with me trying to reprogram my brain on this, but it's a hard task. Brianna, the cultural messaging is being a mother is being a martyr. Yep. Diana says yes. Grace says it resonates with best friends and romantic relationships. Totally. And Barbara is saying, totally resonate with what you're speaking to. Huge tension. I've received that cultural memo. Claire is feeling that. Yeah, totally. So how do we work through that? We work through this through practice. And so if we want the culture to shift, we need to shift because we are the culture. And the whole idea is to get a critical mass of women who have awoken to the brainwashing that we've all been handed down about who and what we're supposed to be. And when we come to and we awaken and see the brainwashing, then we can just consciously choose a different thought, and we can consciously choose a different behavior. And if enough of us do that, it shifts the culture. I mean, that's what happened when women got the right to vote. I understand it was white women first, and it took a long time after that for Black women in the United States. But it took a whole bunch of women protesting and waking up. And it took a whole bunch of women protesting and waking up in the 60s and 70s. And it took a whole bunch of people waking up to a whole lot of things to change the culture. And so this particular cultural shift is us needing to shift the belief that the less we need, the better of a person we are, the more worthy of love we are, the more holy, the more, just the better, right? So it's a lie. It's just, we've just been fed lies by the patriarchy, which thrives on women being held down. And a really great way to hold women down and to make sure we're subservient is to tell us that we are not worthy of having needs or desires, and that in order to be a good woman, we need to lose ourselves. And then when all the women have lost themselves, they become completely controllable. And that's really good for the patriarchy that wants to control us. However, you're here, which means you are ready for a different way, which means you are part of the cultural shift that's afoot right now. And so I'm so happy to be on this journey. And I wanted to bring up the larger context here and then get into, okay, how do you actually ask for help? I'm just looking. Aditi brought up that this is resonating and that she heard my podcast on Dr. Valerie Rain's podcast. And this is also a result of patriarchy stress disorder, which I think is really what I was touching on there. With this piece about the patriarchy wanting to keep us down. And so it just requires us waking up and changing our behavior. And it doesn't mean PS. Asking for what you want and asking for what you need and asking for help does not mean you're selfish. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It doesn't mean you're entitled. In fact, giving and receiving is completely cyclical. And the more we allow ourselves to receive, the more we ask for what we need and want, the happier we get, the more well-resourced we get, the more energized we become, the more available we then become for creative solutions in our work, creative solutions in our communities, to be available for others, to be an advocate for change in the world. But when we are running in depletion because we are abiding by a false memo that a good woman is selfless, then we are ensuring that we are running on fumes, which means we can't show up in our full capacity, which means the world is not getting the best of us, which means we can't do the work we're here to do, whether that's being a really present parent, whether that's, developing a world-changing app, whether that's, some kind of thought leadership. I don't know what your work is here on the planet, but it's really important that we understand that if we are not asking for help and not asking for what we need and not in the general practice of receiving, then we are actually in so much as giving and receiving is cyclical, then we are actually cutting off the flow and preventing all of the people and plants and animals and the earth. Like, we are preventing whoever and whatever needs us from receiving all of our full gifts. So us not receiving and not asking means somebody else can't get what they need either. And so when we open ourselves up to receive, when we ask for help, when we allow others to support us, we actually are duplicating and multiplying the ability of all women and all people and all beings to receive what they need. My receiving is your receiving. We both need to be receiving and giving to be part of the flow and part of the cyclical energy, because we are all connected. And it's so, so important that we lean into that and break up the idea that not needing anything equals better, equals good woman. That's just a false equation. And it's time for us to question it and to rewrite the rules so that the culture can shift. Okay, so I am curious your thoughts on this. So let me know how this is landing with you. Let me know what questions you have. And then I'll give you the 3 steps for asking for help, or asking for your needs to be met, or asking for what you want, right? Because you don't just only have to ask when you need it. You can also ask when you just have a desire that you would like to have met. Amy is saying, grateful my almost 3-year-old daughter gets to grow up in a world with your ideas unfolding around us. Oh, thank you, Amy. I love that. I love that. Yeah, a shift is afoot. I can really feel it. Maria, you are so welcome. She says, thank you for your authenticity. You're so welcome. I don't know any other way to be. I've never been able to lie in my life, so I can only tell the truth. All right. So let me know if you have any other thoughts that you want to share, or any questions, or I would also love to know what comes up for you around asking for help, around asking for your needs to be met, around receiving, and around asking for what you want. Barbara says, great way to look at giving and receiving as cyclical, so everyone is getting what they need. Yes. Natalie says, this is powerful. Never heard that before, but resonates with me. Not needing anything does not equal a good woman. Yes. Mandy says, you just opened my mind about how there's a ripple effect if I don't participate in receiving. I love that. Yes, Mandy, receive for other people, because we've all been so programmed that we have to do everything for somebody else. So if that's the mind trick you have to play on yourself, that your receiving means another woman will be able to receive, do it. It'll work. Katie says, my 8-year-old daughter says you make so much sense. Thank you. Thank you, sweetheart. Sampata says, thank you for the patriarchy perspective. It's the root cause of so many things I struggle with. Yeah, absolutely, Sampata. Me too. All of us, for sure. And if you haven't read Patriarchy Stress Disorder, please read that by Dr. Valerie Rain. Joe says, it can be hard to ask when you've been shamed for this in the past. Oh my gosh, I am so glad you brought that up, Joe. So if you have been shamed for asking what you need in the past and you are scared to do so, I really do recommend reading Patriarchy Stress Disorder and leaning into some of the tools around the nervous system, because that's a trauma. It can be a little t trauma or a big T trauma, but that is a trauma. And Grace is sharing, I started asking for my wants more and I'm hitting a roadblock and feeling spoiled. Other people are getting more comfortable, but I'm getting more uncomfortable. That's really interesting, Grace. So yes, and Katrina is saying it's hard to ask for help when you are met with resistance. So I think this is like a common thread. So we may meet resistance inside our own selves, as Grace is, or we may meet resistance with others, like Joe and Katrine are saying. And that's going to be expected, right? Because this isn't comfortable. If we were staying comfortable, we would be staying in the status quo. The status quo is women are selfless and therefore can be controlled. The growth edge is women are, as Glennon Doyle would say, full of themselves and therefore fully in their power. And so, of course, it's going to make other people uncomfortable when you ask for what you want and when you fully inhabit all of who you are. And of course, it's going to feel uncomfortable to you in your body, because for generations, it has been unsafe to be a powerful woman. Our cultural structure depends on that. Many of the people in power only have that power because we have been suppressed by being endangered when we are powerful. I mean, the witch trials, women, even women now, right? Like Elizabeth Warren and what happened to her in the media, a powerful woman who is being questioned for, regardless of your politics, a powerful woman who is being questioned in her ability to lead. And we rake women over the coals for their appearance, for their character, for all of these things. And men are just questioned for their ideas. And those are the ways that our media still participates in the culture of the subjugation of women. And so it's really important to know that it is going to be uncomfortable and you will be shamed. And you know what? We have to do it anyway, while learning to tend to our bodies and learning to tend to the things that come up. So I've shared many times my go-to tools for nervous system healing. But again, please go to Valerie Rain's book, the Patriarchy Stress Disorder. There's also some amazing other books, but she really weaves in this piece of feminism and patriarchy in a way that other people don't. And so when I'm feeling fear, like that fear of I'm going to die if I ask for what I want because I've been shamed in the past, or because I'm having ancestral trauma, or there's the collective trauma of seeing other women shamed for asking for what they want or getting, what they want, right? Other women, we do it to each other, right? Because the patriarchy is also internalized. Oh, must be nice for her. Oh, well, look at her. Easy for her to say. Right? We do that. We judge people on social media. We judge people for having. We judge people for not having. We judge people for so many things, right? And so it's really important that we get conscious of the programs that we're running, and we consciously tend to our nervous system. So my favorite tools are shaking. I've been doing it every day in the class. I've been doing the class online. I love it so much. So shaking, breathing into my back lower ribs, and feeling my feet on the floor, feeling gravity holding me. So those are some tools that you can use to unravel these things. And of course, it's complex. And I'm certainly not a somatic experiencing expert. I'm not a trauma expert by any means. And so, I do recommend learning more on your own and getting guidance from a professional. But this is really, really, really important because so Lynn shared that I have 2 boys and take my responsibility seriously in showing them what a powerful woman looks like. They're watching me every moment. Boundaries is a big theme lately. Yeah. Oh my God. So true. So true. So Smadar is sharing, that's the thing. The Me Too movement has made me realize that as far as we think we have come, there are some things that have not changed as much as we want to believe. It's so true, right? It's like we've come so far and yet we have so far to go. And this work about asking for what you want and asking for what you need is the groundbreaking work, because we change the culture one woman at a time. We change the culture one household at a time. This is not about out there. This is about us. We are the culture. And when we shift, we have better ideas. We're able to communicate better. We're able to incite change in our households, in our communities, in our towns, in our cities, in our states, in our regions, in our countries, in the world. But we have to begin to dismantle the internalization that's holding us back first, because we can't expect somebody out there to fix it for us if we're not willing to do the interior work to stand up for ourselves and get out there and ask for one morning a week to sleep in, or ask for dinner to be handled for, forever, right? For a night or forever. Like ask and then ask again and then ask again, and then also offer, because the more we ask, the more available we are to offer. It's both. It's both. Okay. Natalie is asking about shaking. Would love to know more. Is it TRE, a trauma release exercise? So I don't know what TRE is, Natalie, and I am coming from this nervous system conversation, from a perspective of I am not an expert. I'm not a trained therapist. I'm not trained in somatic experiencing or trauma. But shaking is literally like I just shake like this. That's it. I just shake for as long as it takes to feel a shift in my body. So that's what I'm doing for shaking. Okay, so here are the 3 steps. 1. It's theclass.com. If anyone was wondering, there's a 2-week free trial as far as I know. All right. So is that TRE? Okay, great. Smadar is sharing that Qigong has some playful shaking exercise. Love it. And if you're, not feeling physically up to a full body shake, just shaking one hand or 2 hands, right? Now, this may bring up some stuff for you. There's a whole process called titration, which is trauma release very slowly. So again, work with a professional, get guidance on this. Okay, here's how we ask. Jessica asks, how do you balance the desire to help others with the need to have space for yourself? That is a lifelong quest, Jessica. I'll share in a minute, but here's what I recommend for those who have trouble asking for help or receiving help. Step one, when somebody says, can I help you? Or is there anything you need? Say yes. Or when somebody offers to do something for you that you genuinely would like, instead of knee-jerk saying, no, I'm fine, notice, can you expand? Can you open yourself to receive? Can you welcome that into your life? And even if you don't know what you want and somebody's saying, do you need anything? You can say, I probably do. Thank you for asking. I'm not sure what I need exactly. Let me get back to you. And then you can sit with yourself and actually ask, what do I need right now? And is that a reasonable thing to ask this person? Right? Because of course, like if it's your neighbor and they're saying, is there anything I can help with? Maybe watching the kids for 5 days in a row wouldn't be an appropriate ask, but maybe, saying, hey, the kids are playing outside with, in the yard. Can I go inside and shower for 15 minutes? Like maybe that would be an appropriate ask, a reasonable ask in that moment. So step one is say yes when people offer, and open yourself to receiving what is offered and get in that practice first. And then step two is then to start with asking for small things. So, it may not feel possible to say to your mother-in-law, hey, of course, mine are all childcare related. You can tell what I'm craving, right? It may not feel doable to say to your mother-in-law, can you do an overnight with my kids? But it might feel doable to do a smaller ask like, hey, I'm going to run to the grocery store for an hour. Can you come read with the kids? Like maybe that feels good. And then you can slowly, just like we work a muscle and we strengthen a muscle, your asking is a muscle that you can strengthen, right? So we just have to keep practicing and keep practicing and keep practicing. So start small. And then the steps for actually asking, whether it's for a need or a want, I just really want to say that, yes, we all have needs for food and shelter and physical touch and, water and sunshine. But then there are also things we want, like space to read a book by ourselves, or a night away without our children, or for somebody else to handle dinner, or whatever it is, right? So we all have also wants and desires, and I just want to say those are righteous and those are valid, and those are a spark of divine in you that you can trust that if it is your desire, if it's bubbling up within you, that the attraction of that desire to you is also good for others. Because I believe that there's a spark of the divine in all of us, and that if something is coming from that place of like, I'm craving this, I'm wanting this, that there is something in the orchestration of the web of all life, that desire being met for you is like a receptor site or a locking place that will then allow somebody else to get a need or a desire met that they have, that we are all interconnected. And if we would give ourselves permission to expand our capacity to receive and ask and have and offer, that more people, more beings will get their needs met. So again, the interconnectedness, the cyclical nature, but we have this sort of, hermetic culture or ascetic culture or, idea, right? That's kind of from religion, many religions, that a person who has no desires is a more holy person. So there we are back to, you're a good woman if you don't want anything. I don't know what this stripping of our humanity, of our cravings is about, but I think it's about control, because our desire is uncontrollable. It's powerful, right? It's beautiful. It's wild. It's untamed, if you will. And I think that that's really scary to the status quo, because again, I learned a lot about desire from Regina Thomas-Howard, Mama Gina, and she talks about how our desire is the access to our divinity, is the access to our power. And allowing ourselves to be in connection with that, even if it's asking your neighbor for an egg, right? Like, it doesn't have to be a huge ask. Yesterday, I literally texted a neighbor and said, do you have 2 eggs? I could have gone to the store, but it's like, going to the store right now is a whole thing and it was going to take me more time. And so I thought, I will ask, because I also want them to know that I'm available if they need eggs or a lemon or whatever, that they would feel comfortable asking me for the same. Again, I'm opening myself up to receiving so that hopefully they will do that in exchange later on down the line. Okay, so I know I missed a lot of comments, but I just want to acknowledge that you're there and we're all here together. And so in that dance between being available for others and just wanting to be and get our own needs met. Yeah, listen, I have a 2-year-old, I have a 4.5-year-old. My husband and I are running a company. We have no childcare. It's a weird time right now. I know others are in the same boat. People are so much worse off than us, obviously. And I really honor that. And so I'm intimately familiar with the trade-offs of we can't get every need met. Some of us, in general, all of us aren't going to be able to get all of our needs met. And so I think that it's really important to check in with yourself and just really feel into how full or empty am I on any given day, and ask based on that. So are you at 20%? Well, then maybe you're going to need more today. So more for you and less for others. And then on another day, like yesterday, I was feeling amazing. And I had a girlfriend reach out to say hey, I'm having a hard time with this issue. Do you have time to hop on the phone? And for me, the do you have time to is actually, I translated in my head to do you have energy to? And this is going to be a segue into our next experiment, which is managing your energy. And I did have energy because I had gotten my needs met. I had done an amazing workout. I had asked my sister to help me with the kids for an hour, and it was nice outside, so I got a little outside time, and so I did feel energetic extra reserves to support her. And I hope that my availability to be there for her, because I was running closer to 100 that day, she's paying it forward in some way by showing up, for her family or for her community in a way that's even a little bit more filled up, because I was able to, for lack of a better, this is cliche, but I was able to give from an overflowing cup. So, okay. All right. So next step, we have experiment. Now that was a lot. I just want to check in before we move on. I'm moving full steam ahead here. We have 3 more experiments to go over. I want to talk about managing your energy next. And I think that story was a good segue into that. But I'm just curious, does anybody have questions or thoughts that they want to share on the asking for help, getting your needs met, receiving conversation? Just going to give it a quick second here. All right, Julia is liking the mentally swapping. Do you have time for do you have energy too? I'm reading from my own book. Do less. There was a third step. I'm so sorry. Medium. Or medium. I don't know if that's how you pronounce your name. So it was to receive what's already being offered. It was to start with the small things. And then it was to ask early, often, and kindly. So ask before you need the help when possible, because it's just easier to be helped or have your needs met when you've asked for it ahead of time. Ask often, meaning get in the practice of daily asking for help, because then you strengthen that muscle and it just becomes like second nature. Like I breathe and I ask for help. I floss my teeth and I get, and it feels safe to get my desires met, things like that. And then finally, the number 3 is to ask kindly, because the earlier we ask and the more often we ask, the kinder we get when asking. All right, so now we're moving on to managing your energy. So I think that story helped to identify that we really are energetic beings. So we have this belief that if we just managed our time better, that we would get more done and that our lives would become more meaningful and we would feel more satisfied. But I think that's a misnomer. And we're going to get into that in the next experiment, which is becoming a time bender. I think what's really important is checking in with our energy, because all we really have is our energy. And the degree to which, time is actually relative. And this is kind of time bending. I guess I'm going to combine them. Time is relative. We all know this, right? So the 5 minutes that you were sitting with your toddler while she was having a complete tantrum about you not giving her a second bar this morning, obviously, real life story, that 5 minutes felt really different than the 5 minutes I spent laying in bed this morning, sort of like deciding whether or not to get up and feeling gratitude for a new day and for my health. That didn't actually happen this morning because my toddler woke up at 5 a.m. screaming. But on different days, sometimes that does happen. So depending on what we're doing and with whom and how we're doing it, it feels different. And that's just relative, right? Like that's time. Time is not linear. There are these two kinds of time. There's chronos and there's kairos. And chronos is linear time. It's in these, linear blocks of time. It just is what it is. An hour is an hour, a minute is a minute, and it's all equal. Kairos, however, this is from ancient Greece, the ancient Greek. Kairos is timeless time. It's the timeless time when you're in flow with something. It's the timeless time when you lose track of time and time speeds up and slows down and there just is no time because you're so engrossed in what you're doing. And that's really that sort of like sweet spot between loving what you're doing and feeling challenged, just challenged enough that you're engaged. And so, yeah. So I'm just seeing more things on the help, and I just want you to know I do see you. I'm going to keep moving on to the next topic, but those are all like awesome questions. Because yes, you're right, Corinne. There are people who tend to hang over you if you accept their help, and you question whether their help is worth it. So that, Corinne, is actually a really great connection to the energy management conversation, because our energy is actually our most precious asset, not our time, because our energy is what allows us to be present and engaged in what we're doing. So the other day, Penelope asked me how much longer it was until bedtime. And I said it was five more minutes. And she said, Mama, is 5 minutes long? Is that a long time or is that a short time? And I said, it just depends. And I said, you can make time longer if you want the time to be longer. You can make it longer by doing your best to have as much fun as possible during the time. And if you want time to go shorter, like her time during quiet time in the afternoon, she often wants it to go shorter. So to feel like it's quicker, because she'll say, Mama, 30 minutes is a long time, or 45 minutes is a long time. And so I reminded her that actually 30 minutes or 45 minutes can feel short if she's focused on really having as much fun as possible. And so that's a combination of managing our energy and managing our time. So, and time bending, because when we manage our energy, meaning we notice where our attention is and we find ways to bring our attention to where we are right now, we actually can expand and contract time. It's very magical, actually. And when it comes to energy management, it's really important to look at the different areas of our life and look at our different relationships and ask which aspects are enhancing my energy, which aspects are energizing, and which aspects are draining. And on page 135 in Do Less, I talk about these different areas of your life that, that I think about, which are your career, your romantic relationship or relationships, your nuclear family, your extended family, your friendships, your health, your spirituality, and your finances. So again, that's on page 135 right in the book, so you don't have to remember that. But I really want you to go through and assess, just on a scale of 1 to 10, how do they feel? 1 is totally draining and 10 is super, super energizing. And what you'll notice is 1 or 2 areas are going to be the ones that drain your energy the most. And this time in our history is a particularly poignant time to be looking at what's draining our energy, because I know in the state of Maine, we just had our stay-at-home order extended until May 31st, but some of the restrictions have been lifted. So like we can go back to a hair salon, for example, starting May 1st. Or there's like you can go to a drive-in movie, for example. I know we're all doing that all the time anyway. Or you can go to a drive-in religious service. I didn't even know that existed, but now I know. So as we are sort of beginning this return from our retreat, it's a really good time to be asking what's energizing in my life and what's draining. What do I even want to go back to? What did I realize during this time of sheltering in place that I don't actually want to go back to? So that's a really important question to be asking right now. And I do see, Natalie, that you said the time bending concept is not too clear for me. I'm coming back to it. Okay. And so when we also think about our managing our energy as opposed to managing our time, that goes back to cyclical planning. So noticing where are you in your cycle, what phase are you in your cycle, and also what phase is the moon in, or what phase is the moon in. If you're not having an unmedicated, relatively regular, predictable menstrual cycle, then you'll want to use the moon as your reference point. But what's so cool is when you begin to tap into the cyclical energy, either going on with you hormonally or going on energetically and cosmically with the moon, and you begin to align your energetic practices, so some of your tasks and the way in which you move through the world with the phase that either your body is in or the moon is in or both, what's so cool is you can really get into momentum and get into this place of having more time and more energy because you are going with the current of your body and going with the current of the cosmos, as opposed to against the current of your body and against the current of the cosmos. And we talked a lot about this in session 1 and 2. So if you want a review on that, feel free. But for example, if I'm on day 1 of my period and I know that that's my most inward, lowest energy time, and I am beating myself up for feeling that way, number 1, huge energy drain, and I am trying to do back-to-back calls all day or back-to-back podcast interviews or back-to-back Facebook Lives or do an entire video shoot, that may be in opposition to the way my energy flow is. And so I do whatever I can to move in concert with the way the energy is flowing in my body and in the cosmos. It's not always possible, but like, let's say I had a video shoot scheduled for day 1 of my period. I would just make sure that, I wasn't also thinking about dinner. I wasn't also thinking about dropping other girls off and picking them up in a world when I might have childcare again. I wasn't also like trying to sneak in emails and some other project at the same time, right? So that's energy management, and a little bit about time bending. So let's see what we've got here. Smadar says, my issue is that I make the decision that something is not for me at the moment, but releasing and letting go is challenging, especially when I need to let go of is something that I really loved doing. Oh, that's interesting, Smadar. I think if you're up for sharing an example, I'd love to talk it out with you. And Jessica, how do you stop yourself from feeling guilt? I don't stop myself from feeling guilt. Other than over time, these things just get easier and easier. I still feel guilty. And you'll hear in the podcast next week, episode 183 that we did for the special Asking for Your Needs to Be Met Mother's Day episode, that I still feel this pull between like getting my needs met or being a good mother, because that's still in me and I'm still working on moving that out. And, I think that the guilt can be there and we can still take the action that we know is best for us. And so I just allow myself to feel guilty about it and just keep moving anyway, and know that that's just the part of the cultural programming that's still in me, and that's okay. Jessica, also, do you ever rearrange your schedule to fit how you're feeling? I do, to some degree. I mean, if I've scheduled a podcast 3 months out and it's happening on the day that I don't feel like hopping on a podcast, I just get it together and do the podcast. Like, I don't want to, massively inconvenience people or be a flake or be, unreliable. So I still get what I need to get done, but I will happily move out deadlines that won't negatively impact people. I will happily, ask for more support. So I do make some adjustments when possible and when necessary. Katie says, do you know if the cyclical part applies to prepubescent girls as well? I think with prepubescent girls, they would follow the moon. So if you're not having a hormonal period, a cycle, then I think you would just follow the moon. All right. Smadar says, there's a group that I love, but I don't have the time or resources to continue in at the moment. I made the choice to stop, but getting myself to actually leave is my challenge. Smadar, I really believe in like trusting our timing. I actually have a similar situation in my life, believe it or not. And, I also think like it's okay. Sometimes you can, if it's an energy drain to stay when you feel like you need to leave, then leave. But if it's just like sort of, fizzling out, I think that's also okay. Like sometimes we know we need to leave something, but then like it's a couple months before we actually do it. And I think just sometimes like our personality selves take a minute to catch up with our more, our wiser selves or our more intuitive selves. And I think, I don't know, for me, I think that's okay. Okay, awesome. So time bending, just to clarify, time bending is based on this idea that there's Chronos and there's Kairos. And Chronos is linear time that just says like, it's 1:48 p.m. in the United States on the East Coast, New York City time. And like, that is what it is. An hour is an hour, a minute is a minute. And the whole idea with Chronos is it's just chronological set time and it just marches on. Kairos, however, is timeless time. And timeless time is the moments in life that we live for. It's the moments that take our breath away. It's the moments we'll never forget. It's the moments, like I'll never forget standing on the side of our wedding reception, holding hands with Mike, just witnessing all of the people we love together, laughing and dancing and just like having a big celebration of love. I will never forget that. I don't know how long we were standing there. It's irrelevant, right? Timeless time. There was a moment this morning when I sat on my front porch with my 2-year-old and just like snuggled and just like kissed her cheeks and nuzzled myself into her neck and just like that little soft skin and soaked up the sun. I don't know how long we were sitting there, right? That was a timeless moment. These are the moments that make life worth living. And interestingly enough, in our work lives, these are the moments when we're in that flow state, a la Mikhail Csikszentmihalyi in his book, Flow, where we actually are doing our best work and producing incredible work that really moves the world forward. And so the whole idea with time bending is to eliminate distractions and to feel your 5 senses and to immerse yourself in the moment. So anything we can do to practice mindfulness, I mean, there's a million different ways to do this. and be present is the thing. That is time bending. And also, I love the affirmation, I am the source of time, because to the degree that time is all relative, we are all the source of our own experience of time. And so that is how time bending works. Does anyone have questions about either managing their energy or time bending before we move on to letting it be enough? Let me know. Maria says, I found my body talks and it takes me a bit longer to get my mind to understand. I find the same thing, Maria. I'm so glad you brought that up. Okay, let's see what else we got. Let me know in the comments what questions you have, what's coming up for you. Smadar says, mindfulness seems to be the answer to every question. It totally is. I think mindfulness, but also being in our bodies. For me, being in my body is such a powerful way to bend time. So there's a great song, a great Maggie Rogers song called Back in My Body that I listen to a lot. It's just like this reminder. First of all, I love the song. I love to dance to it. And it's just this reminder that our bodies are here. Our bodies are animals. And the best way to be fully immersed in the moment is to get out of our heads and into our bodies. And so, yes, mindfulness, but also, this isn't really a word, but bodyfulness. Like, I wonder what bodyfulness, like, how can we practice? Well, it's called embodiment. Hello, hi, there is a word for that. Embodiment is the way to time bending. It absolutely is. Hold on. I'm actually just writing that down because I've never thought about it that way before. So that's it. Okay. Yes, Natalie, time bending is being fully immersed in the moment. Yeah. And also managing our energy is like, when you manage your energy instead of manage your time, you actually create more time. And so that is also time bending. Okay, great. So I'm going to move on now to our final experiment, which is letting it be enough. And so especially right now, always, I think this is an important message for all of us, especially those of us who are recovering perfectionists, recovering overachievers, those of us who have all been living under with patriarchy stress disorder, with sort of this belief that we are as good as our ability to take care of other people. We are only as good as our ability to not have needs. We are only as good as our ability to achieve. If you've been like hyper academic and climbing some sort of like check boxes of success in academia and then the corporate world in your career. I'm reading Michelle Obama's book, Becoming. And she's really talking about her college career and school and college and law school, and how she was really like obsessed with checking the boxes and always being focused on the next achievement. And so for those of us who can relate, I'm not saying I'm like the former first lady, but I could really relate to that aspect of her book, talking about kind of like, okay, never really saying I'm enough, but actually trying to prove our enoughness through the next achievement. And it's very, very powerful to actually break that and allow ourselves to be enough right now. Like, what would you do if you were already enough? How would you be? How would you go move through the world if you knew you'd already arrived? Who would you be if you weren't judging your worth by your achievements? Like, the chasing of more income, more followers, more impact, more success, more visibility, like the chasing of more can actually prevent us from showing up fully for our lives, because we can be so obsessed with what's next. And we're so obsessed with what's next because there's this belief that if we rack up enough achievements, that will finally be enough. But it is totally a myth, and we have to just let it be enough right now. So I wanted to share that and just remind you that your achievements have nothing to do with your worth as a human. The amount you produce, your productivity, has nothing to do with your achievements. I mean, with your worth. Your value is not dependent on what you produce or how much you get done in a day or how clean your house is or how clean your kids are. I looked at Ruby today and I was just like, man, my baby is dirty, right? And I love this. Natalie is sharing the question, who do I want to be if there is no next? I think that's a really important question. I'm so glad you wrote that, because in many ways, there is no next, right? We don't know exactly how the future is going to reveal itself during and after this pandemic. Like, we don't know what life is going to be like. And so asking ourselves, who do I want to be if there is no next, is the question. Like, do I want to be someone who's actually here and actually feels whole and complete and feels like I love myself? Like, yeah, that's it. That's all we have, right? It's our health. It's our relationship with ourselves. It's relationship with the people we love, the relationship with the planet. I mean, that's it. And I think for me, that profound simplification of everything has really come through at times. So, here are some pointers for really allowing it to be enough, and really just like being in quality relationship with ourselves and others. And here's just like a couple tips that we can all stop doing to create more presence and more of that feeling of enoughness in our lives. One is stopping using your phone while in conversation with someone, especially at a meal. 2, making every conversation about yourself by always responding to others people's stories with stories from your own life instead of asking them follow-up questions about what they're sharing with you. And 3, distracting ourselves from ourselves with substances, shopping, our phone, or any other kind of numbing behavior. And then it says, our full presence is the greatest gift we can give anyone. And it's not the amount of time that anyone will remember. It's the way they felt when they were with you, because you were really with them. Our gift to our people is not actually our time. It's ourselves, to be fully with them when we're with them. That's all they want. So, Natalie just had her aha moment. I love that. Smadar, I'm going to miss these book club meetings too. This has been so powerful, and I want to end with just reading the last couple of lines of the book to you, and then I want to invite you to some ways that we can continue to be in relationship together and just kind of wrap up. Okay, so here's the end of the final experiment. Let it be enough, and the end of the book. Let the amount you've moved your body this week be enough. Let the effort you put into that project be enough. Let the amount of time you spent truly, really being with your people be enough. Let the amount of sex you're having be enough. Let the love you have to give be enough. The world doesn't need you busy. The world needs you here. And it's enough. May we all have that tattooed upon our souls and remember it as many times as we need to, especially now and going forward. So I just want to say thank you all so much for being here in this book club. This has been such a pleasure. This has been such an honor to guide you in this experience and to be together during this time. And I would love to invite those of you who want to stay connected to listen to the Kate and Mike show. Each week we have a new conversation that's about unconventional life and business, and that will give you many tips and tricks and tools and insights for your do less journey. Of course, you'll get to stay in this Facebook group and all stay connected to one another. And I'll pop in here every now and again also. So please stay connected here. And for those who do want to go deeper, right now, the doors to Origin, my membership, are not open to the public, but because you've been part of the Do Less Book Club, you are welcome to join. And I will put that link here. Origin is a place where we learn to grow our businesses and to operate our businesses while doing less. And each month we get together for a session very similar to this, except we get to actually talk to each other and see each other. So instead of me just talking and you only seeing me, I get to see you and talk to you. And we go through a themed topic each month with a how-to lesson, and then a Maven Masterclass featuring an expert in that area, and then an in-depth group coaching session with me on that topic. Plus, you get the archived library that's totally searchable of our past 3 years of incredible content to support you in growing your business while doing less. My girlfriend calls it the best Netflix for soul-based business ever. And you can listen to all of the content as a private podcast that shows up right in your podcast listening app on your phone, which is very cool. So you don't have to log into the computer to get access. You can just listen to it as like the Origin podcast. So that's what's happening there. So if you're an entrepreneur, please join us. If not, please stay connected on the Kate and Mike show. I would imagine since you're here for the book club, you're already on my email list, katenorthrup.com/list. You can get your free download of the Do Less Weekly Planning Ritual Guide. You can stay connected through that. And then also, we do have our Do Less planners becoming available. The physical version will probably be available in late June or early July. So those took longer to print because they were manufactured in China. And so as you can imagine, that got slowed down a little bit, but those are on their way now. So does anyone have questions or any final thoughts before we wrap it up? Katerina says, thank you, Kate. Because of your teaching, I've been able to take responsibility for myself. Lynn says, I love Origin. I love having you in that. Katie, yeah, the Origin podcast is very, very cool. And Natalie, Origin Collective really is geared for entrepreneurs. So yeah, if you have a business, then Origin would be applicable to you. The topics we cover are things like how to ask for help in your business, how to create an editorial calendar, how to write magnetic copy. So things that are really like, what are the do less strategies that we can apply to our businesses? And Aditi, is Origin open to those of us who are planning to open a business, who are budding entrepreneurs? Absolutely. In fact, I did 2 lessons last year, two months, months 1 and 2, on getting your business up and running. So the steps to do so. So all you would need to do is just follow that framework. So it's how to get your business up and running in a do less way. So you just follow that framework and then you'd be off to the races. Smadar, yes, if you want to continue to work through the book together in the group, I would love that. I think that would be amazing. Diana, yes, there is a cost to Origin. It is a monthly membership, or you can sign up annually, and all the information is on the website. If you're somebody who is interested in joining, but your finances have been affected by this situation globally, or just in general, you're not in a place to make the full investment, we do have 50% scholarships available. And so you can always write in about that. Aditi just signed up to the Origin waitlist. So Aditi, I'm wondering though, yes, the waitlist is good, but I'm wondering if you were able to, hold on, I just want to see, origincollective.com/do less should have you able to sign right up if you want to, but the waitlist is good too. Sampata says, I loved allowing your personality self to catch up with your intuitive self. And how would you move through the world if you were already enough? I'm so glad that resonated with you, Sampata. That was, those are just like great questions to keep asking ourselves. How would we move through the world if we already knew we were enough? Like, what choices would we make? And would they be different? So Katie, thank you for joining us. Thank you for everyone who joined every single week. Thank you to everyone who joined, in replay. Anyone who's joining, a long time since we did this, because we will keep these sessions live in the group. So Leslie, if you want to apply to a scholarship for Origin, you can email origin@katenorthrup.com and we'll get back to you. So origin@katenorthrup.com, and we'll let you know about scholarship opportunities. All right. Thank you all. This has been just such a profound pleasure. Please also, if you don't already, follow me on Instagram. That's the place I hang out most on social. Follow the podcast, The Kate and Mike Show. Get yourself a planner. Join Origin. There's so many ways that we can play together for free and for paid. I really just love being in community. So whatever way we can interact is great with me. And just let's carry the revolution forward. Do less and change the world. Thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.